I believed I was choosing her, but the truth was, I'd already been selected. I first noticed her on a Wednesday afternoon, when the light through the cafe's high windows slanted golden, dust motes drifting in the beams like tiny dancers. I'd arrived early, hoping to claim the small corner table by the window for my music theory workbook and a large black coffee. The cafe was a comfortable jumble of mismatched chairs and tables, a gentle hum of conversation punctuated by the hiss of the espresso machine. As I stood in line waiting for my drink, I saw her at the counter. Her dark hair fell in loose waves just past her shoulders, catching the light in chestnut highlights. A pencil was tucked behind one ear, and she wore a moss-green trench coat that seemed improbably elegant for this corner of town. Tailored, deliberate, purposeful. I wondered what business someone so sharply dressed had in a bohemian cafe where most people wore paint-splattered jeans and flannel. She turned, maybe answering the barista, and our eyes met. Her smile was immediate and precise, as if she'd been ready for me. It felt rehearsed and yet warm at the edges, like candlelight flickering in a draft. I caught myself staring and looked away too quickly, heart pounding, but not before noticing how she stirred her latte slowly, deliberately, as though counting each rotation of the spoon. I carried my drink back to the table and opened my textbook to Schenkerian analysis. The notation felt hostile, the symbols arranged in a code I couldn't quite crack. Across the room, I could still see her. She chose a small round table by the pastry case, stood there briefly with one foot slightly forward as if favoring her right leg. She studied the croissants without buying anything, sipping black coffee with an intensity that felt analytical. Once seated, she aligned her phone, wallet, and green notebook in a perfect row. She wrote quickly, flipping pages with brisk precision. I tried to focus on tonal prolongation and voice-leading reductions, but the scratch of her pencil was more hypnotic than any melody. Thursday, I came back at the same time, telling myself she wouldn't notice me. Same table, same chapter, same caffeine spiral, but she was there again. Same coat, same posture, same ritual. I counted 14-page turns. I noted the 6-degree tilt of her head. I tracked her sips, each taken after finishing a page, pausing 3 seconds before continuing. I felt ridiculous, like I was reducing a person to data points. On Friday, I nearly stayed home. The routine felt obsessive, invasive. Still, by noon, I was pushing open the cafe door, breathing in roasted beans. When she stood and walked toward me, my heart seized. She carried her latte and notebook, composed and unhurried, and stopped at my table as if she belonged there. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. "Go ahead," I said, quieter than I meant. "I'm Mary." Her handshake was firm. "James." She leaned forward. "I've seen you here." I flushed. "I study here sometimes." "I would have remembered you," she said, smiling, then opened her notebook. She caught me air conducting and humming without realizing it. "It's endearing," she said. We talked. I told her about growing up in the Midwest, discovering Bach in a dusty library, falling in love with patterns in sound. She took notes, drew diagrams, sketched tiny faces when I joked. I felt lighter, looser. She asked about my family. I said I was an only child. She wrote aversion to road trips. We kept meeting. She brought chai. She corrected my analyses with gentle precision. Her fingers brushed mine, leaving heat behind. But she remained elusive. East Coast, never specific. Project work, travel, a son she mentioned in fragments. I dreamed of her constantly, masks, corridors, languages I didn't know. Then she called. "I'd like you to meet my family." Friday night, she drove me to a cul-de-sac house with lawn stripes like coded messages. Inside, laughter echoed too loudly. The walls were covered in television faces, sitcoms, game shows, frozen smiles. Her grandfather laughed in perfect sync with canned laughter. Her uncle spoke entirely in game show phrases. Nothing felt improvised. Then, she brought out her son. Anthony looked like a boy pulled from the 1950s. Perfect posture, perfect hair, eyes that didn't blink. His voice was deep, practiced, hollow. "I don't watch television," he said. "Isin siade de sever CIT was so safem about set." Usis-na-te-deal. He watched me all through dinner. He didn't eat, he didn't move. Everything tasted wrong. The laughter felt layered, artificial. The questions they asked me were too precise, too familiar. When Anthony finally left the room, the silence pressed in. I realized then that I hadn't been learning Mary. I had been auditioning.